Okay, Assalamualaikum to all of you. Okay, we meet again to discuss on the other topics of public finance, which is management and control of public funds. If previously, the past lecture, we actually discuss on the processes of public finance in public sector itself, okay, whereby we start with budget, then from budget we learn on the various procurement, okay, because in the budget we have some objective to be fulfilled, some objective to be achieved. Then in order to materialize that, we need to procure, and then in order to ensure that the procurement is made with accountable, then we have public accounting. We learn on public accounting. Okay, so this is another part of it. Okay, another part of public finance, whereby in this topic we learn on how government manage the revenue. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, in chapter 4, we already learned on the various revenue that the government have. Like for federal government, we have direct taxes, indirect taxes, summons, royalties, fines, court fees. Okay, that is the revenue for federal government. And for state government, we have the revenue from raw water, then we have the treasure trove, then we also have the entertainment duties. So how this federal government and state government manage the funds that they have. Okay, so basically these are what the topic is all about. Okay, so the first thing that we need to know is consolidated fund. Okay, so what is consolidated fund? Consolidated fund, or in bahasa we call that as kumpulan wang yang disatukan. Consolidated fund is a fund where government accumulates all the revenue that government get into this specific fund. So the general rule is all revenue that the government get, okay, must be kept in this particular fund. Okay, the direct taxes, indirect taxes, fine, summons, court fees, okay, must be put into this specific account. And this actually mentioned in the section 3 of the Financial Procedure Act. Okay, and as we learn in chapter 4 that federal government and state government it is a different entity if according to revenue. So federal government have their own revenue, state government have their own revenue. So federal government manage their own consolidated fund, state government manage their own state consolidated fund. Okay, and under this consolidated fund, there are 3 different accounts. So the umbrella, the accounts is consolidated fund, but we have 3 different accounts, which is consolidated revenue account, consolidated trust account, and consolidated loan account. Okay, we will look through that one by one. Okay, we'll look on consolidated revenue account. Okay, the general rule is all revenue received by federal government must be accounted, okay, must be channeled into this consolidated revenue account. That's the general rule. All revenue received by the federal government, okay, either direct taxes, indirect taxes, summons, okay, court fees, all must be channeled into this consolidated revenue account, except there's an exception. Okay, except first the revenue where the government get by the way of loan. Okay, we have learned on public debt before this, right? So public debt cannot be channeled. The money that we get from public debt cannot be channeled into this consolidated revenue account. Okay, so no public debt money here. Second, the money for trust account. Okay, I will touch on what is trust account after this. And the third one is the money that the government get by the way of Islamic revenues. Islamic revenues like zakat, fitrah, baitul mal is not be accounted in this consolidated revenue account. So all revenue must be channeled into this consolidated revenue account except these three. Okay, consolidated the loan account, trust account, and the Islamic revenues account. Okay, so the money that we have in the consolidated revenue account will be used to pay for charge expenditure and supply expenditure. I would like to recall what we have learned in public expenditure. Charge expenditure is those expenditure which do not need parliamentary approval. Okay, so charge expenditure is those expenditure which is automatically be charged every year. For example, the royal allowance, the salary of the Auditor General, okay, and to pay for the supply expenditure. Okay, supply expenditure like the salaries of the civil servants, the all the stationaries, renovations. Okay, that is under the supply expenditure, which will be paid from the money in the consolidated revenue account. Okay, then we move to consolidated trust account. Okay, consolidated trust account it's like this. Okay, every expenditure the government made or every receivings that the government get, all this is actually stipulated under the Financial Procedure Act. But sometimes government have other specific purpose, okay, and that is not mentioned in the Financial Procedure Act. So government develop a specific trust fund for that purpose. Okay, so example of trust fund that the government developed is the development fund, housing loan fund, government trust fund, public trust fund, deposits and pension trust funds. Okay, we look upon one by one after this. Okay, first, development fund. Okay, remember the money that the government get to pay for charge expenditure and supply expenditure is actually government get it from the consolidated revenue account. But how is it for development? So where the government get money? Okay, we know that in the public debt chapter, we already learned that when government want to develop something, that our budget, our revenue is not actually sufficient for that purpose. So normally government borrow for that purpose. In order to develop, government borrow. In order to develop ECRL, government borrow from the Chinese government, right? Okay, so the money that the government get by the way of loan will be kept in the consolidated loan account, which I will explain later. So the money that we have in the consolidated loan account, which we need to use for development purpose, will be transferred from consolidated loan account to consolidated trust account under development fund. So whatever development the government wish to do, which is agriculture or transportation or to develop the rural area, so government get the money from the development fund. Okay, then we look on housing loan fund. Government do provide loans, housing loans, to the members of parliament, to the Auditor General, to the judges of the federal court, and to the government servant. Those who works with the government, we can apply for housing loan from the government. Okay, so every month we need to pay for our installment fees every month. Okay, in order, let's say me myself, I purchase houses and I make loans from the government. So every month I need to pay back the government my installment. Okay, my loan installment. So Every installment I made every month will be channeled into this housing loan fund, okay, under the consolidated trust account. Okay, that is housing loan fund, which is a specific purpose. So government cannot get the money from the revenue account. So government keep the money under the trust account, which is specific purpose for housing loan. Okay, then we have government trust fund. Okay, this is a specific for government. If let's say we have any contingencies like banjir in Kelantan, if I'm not mistaken, 2006. Okay, or we have earthquake, or we have tsunami. Okay, at one point of time. So we have the contingency funds which will be kept in the government trust fund. Then we have public trust fund. Okay, public trust funds is a fund where it is a special trust account. If let's say government created companies which is not mentioned under any of the act, so government can keep the money under the public trust fund. Then deposits. Okay, if let's say the government enter into an agreement with the third party, and then the third party need to pay some amount of deposit, so that deposit will be kept in this deposit account under consolidated trust account, which is one day the government need to return back the deposit account to that particular parties. Okay, so government keep the deposit account under deposit money under the deposit account in the consolidated trust account. And the last one is pension trust funds. Okay, it's quite controversial for these 2-3 years, where the increasing expenses for to maintain the pension trust fund, to maintain the pension. So government developed these pension trust funds in order to reduce the government financial burden, and this pension trust funds is actually developed in order to manage the fund, okay, according to the specific purpose prescribed in the retirement fund. Okay, that is consolidated trust account, which is developed in order for specific purpose. Then we have consolidated loan account. Okay, we have learned in the topic of public debt, we have so many borrowings, regardless internal debt or external debt. Internal debt, like the government borrow from KWSP, Tabung Haji, or any commercial banks. And for external loans, if the government have bilateral loans, market loans, okay, or government borrow from international monetary institutions. So all the money get by the way of loan will be kept in this consolidated loan account, which normally be used for development and will be transferred from the consolidated loan account to the development fund under consolidated trust account. Okay, that is all how government manage the revenue that the government get. Okay, so for control, remember the topic is on this chapter is all about management and control of public funds. So in terms of controlling, we will discuss first on auditing. Okay, so auditing is one way on how government control the public money, not only on accounting. Okay, government control public money through the public accounting. Government also control public monies from the audit activities. Okay, so what is auditing? Okay, I'll read the definitions and we will understand it piece by piece. Okay, auditing refers to the professional service of which auditor seeks to provide a reasonable assurance through the issuance of opinion, thus enhance the credibility of the subject matter, by Fatima Abdul Rauf. Auditing refers to professional service. Okay, the auditing activities itself is professional service which will be conducted by auditor who is considered as professionals. Who is professionals? Professionals is those persons who need to have licenses to practice. Either the doctor is a professional career whereby they need a license to practice. Engineers, architects, they need licenses to practice. Okay. Auditing also same goes. Auditors needs licenses to practice auditing. Okay, so what this auditor do? Okay, auditor need to provide a reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance of what? Okay, we know in public accounting, whatever procurement made by the public sector, they need to keep a proper book of account. Okay, whatever purchase they need to keep a proper book of account. But how do we know that that account, that book of account, that vote book is actually reliable, trusted, can be trusted? How can we know? That is why we need auditor to audit that particular account so that we are actually more that particular account is actually more trusted. Okay, that is the job of the auditor, to provide a reasonable assurance. Okay, through the issuance of opinions, every year when the National Audit Department audits all the accounts or performance of public sector agency, they will come out with Auditor General reports. In this Auditor General report, they will provide their opinions after they actually undertake the auditing activities. They will provide opinions on what they think of this particular agency's book of account, what they think about the performance of these particular agencies. They will provide opinions for that. Why? Because the purpose is to enhance the credibility of the subject matter, to enhance the credibility of the book of account, to enhance the credibility of the vote book, so that people are more trusted. People can trust more, and this is the way of how government shows that they are actually accountable for every cent of public money. Okay, so that is auditing. Okay, so the purpose of audit is first to add the credibility, as I said just now. Okay, yes, we have book of account, we have statement of account, but the auditing is to enhance the credibility, enhance the reliability of the statement, provide independent opinion. Okay, they need to provide an independent opinion. Lukman, provide independent opinion. If they say they found out something suspicious, they need to provide independent opinion. That is what happened in the case of 1MDB. The Auditor General found out something and he provides the independent opinion on that. Okay, then it is a mechanism to ensure accountability. Okay, we need to ensure that the government sector need to ensure that they are actually accountable. They have accountability, they have a responsibility towards public money. So this is one way to enhance the accountability, to take possible corrective action. If they say something is found not right, okay, something suspicious, so the National Audit Department can propose to the Parliament to take possible corrective action. Okay, like what happened in 1MDB. So the Auditor General report found out something, and the Parliament decide to take on the corrective action. Okay, the categories of audit. We have two categories of audit, which is internal audit and external audit. Okay, for internal audit, in every government agencies, we actually have an audit department. Okay, setiap jabatan kerajaan they have audit department, whereby this audit department is an internal audit department who will audit first. Okay, who will audit first all these book of account, the performance, okay, the compliance to the rules and regulations. They will audit first. Okay, they will audit first macam pengawas dalaman lah. Okay, they will audit first to ensure that every department under that particular agency follow rules and regulations, follow the standard accounting format. Okay, that's why kalau bila ada audit nak datang, kita semua kelang kabut to semua filing because they will look upon all these documents. Okay, so internal audit is actually the internal department who will audit first the whole agencies punya documents before the external audit coming in. Okay, external audit is those who coming from the national audit department, okay, who will audit everything, okay, the accounts, the performance, the compliance to the rules and regulation. So they will audit first. They will audit, and the findings from this audit, this external audit, will be tabled out in the parliament for the Auditor General report every year. You can browse through the National Audit Department websites and you'll find out the published Auditor General report every year. Okay. So look on types of audit. We have three types of audit: financial audit, compliance audit, and performance audit. So we'll look on the financial audit, or we call that as attestation audit. Okay. Financial audit, this is a traditional kind of audit. When we talk about audit, we normally audit financial accounts. So this is the traditional one. So in the financial audit, all the vouchers, invoice, LO will be audited. Okay, will be audited whether they follow the standard format of accounting. If you still remember in the accounting lecture, public accounting lecture, all government agencies must follow the current accounting format. Okay, so the audit department will check upon, okay, whether they use the current format or outdated format. Okay, so they use the same format, and all purchasing made is actually being kept up to date. Okay, so they will check upon all this, and all the invoice, all the LO is actually accurate. Okay, follow rules and regulation. Okay, so that is financial audit. Then we have compliance audit. Compliance, as its name confers, the audit department will audit whether all operations or activities undertaken is actually according to the rules and regulation. Every procedures in government sectors, public finance, how you want to procure, how you need to keep your book of account, how you should keep your stock, your storage, okay, how you should undertake a project, what are the specific SOP for carrying out activities. All this actually mentioned in various rules and regulations, okay, in the Act, in the circulars, in the Treasury instructions. So the National Audit Department will audit whether all these agencies follow all rules and regulations, comply to all rules and regulations, and this is actually undertaken cyclical basis, like once in the 4 months. Okay. And then the performance audit. Okay, this is the the modern kind of audit, whereby the performance audit is where the audit department audit the performance of every agencies. In the budget, they actually all these agencies already outlined the objective. If you still remember, they outlined the objective. Let's say to increase the standard of living of Bumiputra's B40s, for example. And then the first activity they will undertake in order to achieve the objective is, let's say, to build low-cost houses. Okay, affordable low-cost houses, for example. Okay, so the National Audit Department not only carry out audit in order to ensure that they comply with rules and regulations, they actually also audit in order to evaluate whether that objective is achievable or not. You say that you want to reduce you want to increase the standard of living of B40. So is the standard of living of B40s increased or not? So that is performance audit. In UITM, for example, various activities have been undertaken in order to achieve objective, like to increase 3-pointer students 20% per year, for example. So every academic meeting, every semester, we will look on this achievement, whether we achieve 20% of 3-pointer students or not. Because why? Because this will be asked by the National Audit Department. Okay, you have specific objective. Do you achieve the objective or not? So that is mentioned in the performance audit of the total the Auditor General report. So now we will discuss on who is Auditor General. Okay, Auditor General, he is actually mentioned in the Federal Constitution under Article 105. Okay, he is actually appointed by Yang di-Pertuan Agong, which upon consultations of Prime Minister, after the Prime Minister discussed with the Conference of Rulers. So the appointment of Auditor General, the PM need to discuss with Conference of Rulers. Then he suggests someone to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Okay, so that is how the Auditor General is appointed. Okay, he is eligible for reappointment. Okay, which means he can be reappointed. Let's say 2019 is appointed, then 2020 is reappointed. He may resign. The Auditor General report, if he thinks that he wants to resign, he can resign at any time. But he cannot be terminated. Okay, he cannot be terminated by Prime Minister or by Parliament. He cannot be terminated unless the termination is same with the grounds of the reasonable grounds of the termination of the judges of the federal court. Okay, so it is not easy to terminate an Auditor General. Okay, and his salary, his remuneration is actually charged under the charge expenditure. Okay, and shall not be altered. Okay. Then the duties and responsibilities of Auditor General. So what is the duties of Auditor General? Auditor General basically need to audit, need to examine, need to inquire the accounts of the Federation and states, the accounts of separated funds in a state or federal, the accounts of any other body provided by the law, accounts for the companies registered under Companies Act 1957, and accounts of any public authority requested by Ministries of Finance. So that is the duties of Auditor General. So what is then the powers of Auditor General? Auditor General have power to call upon any person, okay, to ask explanation and information on anything. Okay, so let's say dia tiba-tiba Auditor General nak panggil kerani. He have powers to do that. Okay, kerani Prime Minister, for example, he have powers to do that, and he has powers to ask any records, vouchers, documents, cash. He can inquire that. Okay, in the case of 1MDB, one of the saksi on the court, mahkamah punya persidangan, one of the saksi says that she actually is only a normal officer, but he has the recordings, voice recording on the discussion, on a meeting discussion between Prime Minister at that time, Datuk Sri Najib, and Auditor General at that time, if I'm not mistaken. And then actually in the Auditor General report, they already highlights the wrongdoings by 1MDB, and then this particular officer kept, dia sorok-sorok, dia record the voice discussion between Auditor General and the Prime Minister at that time and the Minister of Finance at that time, whereby the Minister of Finance at that time asked for deletion, untuk delete beberapa perkara di dalam Auditor General Report berkaitan dengan salah laku yang dibuat oleh 1MDB. So ini ada diberitahu dalam sebagai salah seorang saksi oleh salah seorang saksi dalam persidangan dekat mahkamah, masa mahkamah bersidang. Ada salah seorang saksi officer, the normal officer. Then the Auditor General also delegates his power by authorizing any persons he deemed competent. In order, we know that the duties of the Auditor General just now, audit the federal accounts, state account, companies under the Companies Act, registered, then any other body specified under the Act. Banyak accounts he need to audit. So he may delegate his powers to any authorized person that he deems competent. He has power to do that. And he may also obtain an advice upon legal matters. If he thinks that something is not right and he needs opinion on legal matters from, let's say, Attorney General, so he may do that. He has powers to do that. Not only Auditor General, then we need to know on the Public Accounts Committee. This is on how we control the public money. Not only we have the auditor, which is headed by the Auditor General, we also have Public Account Committees on how we control the public money. The Public Account Committee is actually a committee which is developed in order to be a watchdog over the spending by the Parliament, made by the Parliament. So this Public Accounts Committee is actually consists of 6 to 12 persons, whereby these are also the members of the Parliament, which it also consists of some of these opposition parties, and members of the opposition party. So they will be the watchdog over the Parliament, and Auditor General also need to present to the Public Accounts Committee on the findings of the Auditor General report. So this PAC will assist the House of Rep in inquiring into the financial matters. I actually not in favor of the Public Accounts Committee, because if you want a watchdog, we actually should get some a body that is independent, an independent body to be the watchdog. If let's say the Parliament made the spending and the watchdog is those who is inside the Parliament itself, and only that they are the members of a small committee to be a watchdog, then I personally think that it is not that cannot be trusted. It's not reliable. So if you want to develop a committee to be a watchdog over the public monies, it should come from like the members should come from like NGOs. So they will like or independent body or academicians. So they will advise on, if let's say they found out that this is not right. So they can advise on something. That's a proper watchdog, I think. So that is all on how the government manage and control of public funds. If you have any question, then you may ask me on the tutorial class. Do ask me before your final test. If you have any problem, then ask me on the tutorial discussion. Okay, thank you.